Okay. Hi. So it's Kari Johnston, and I am filming today from the traditional territory of the Champagne and Ajax First Nations in Dakwakata Haines Junction. And my guest today is Sonny Gray, and Sonny joins us from Whitehorse from the traditional territory of Ta'anchin Council and Kwanlin Dun First Nation. Welcome, Sonny.
Thanks for having me.
So if you could kind of give us a little window into what it is you do in the world, what fills your days?
So I'm involved in food production and agriculture development, north of 60. So that's, I'm the CEO of North Star Agriculture and also the CEO of Flat Creek Farms. And yeah, that's what we do. We're into food. We do food. We grow food. We facilitate innovation in agriculture to be able to grow food north of 60.
And what kinds of foods are you growing?
Well, right now, Flat Creek Farms raises meat rabbits and pork, and North Star Agriculture is involved in a number of different projects. One of them is a vertical farm that we're building out at the hot springs. That will be leafy greens, up to 800,000 pounds of baby spinach, romaine heart, and lettuce per year.
And how do you access your clients, your market in your agriculture? Is it farm gate? Is it wholesale? Is it a combination?
Yeah, I mean, we started out in a very traditional sense. It was farm gate, being in business. I've been in business here in the Yukon for 16 years. I did know a lot of different people. And when they found out that I was getting into farming, they were quick to ask, like, what do you got available? And I've done it all here. I've tested different things. I have had goats, I've had sheep, I've had pigs, rabbits, quail, chickens, meat chickens, a little bit of everything. And so at any given time, from a farm gate perspective, I was able to provide those products. We only specialized, recently when we went corporate and adopted some shareholders and decided, well, let's do something really, really good. And then that's what we got into the pigs.
And you mentioned that you've got your sort of hand in a couple of other businesses. You describe yourself as an entrepreneur. Can you give us a sense of what some of those other businesses are?
Yeah, I mean, most of my businesses when I first started were very service-related businesses. I started a security company when I came to the Yukon about 16 years ago, Serious Security. And then 3 years after that, I started Gray Management Services, which was a property management company. 3 years after that, I bought Carpet Clean and ended up converting it into Yukon Clean, where we do window washing and upholstery and carpet cleaning and mat rental and all kinds of things. And obviously, looking at that trend of that every 3 years doing something new, I realized that I was a builder, that I was a developer, that I wasn't really interested in managing them per se, and managing employees and managing clients and all that stuff. I was really good at getting it up off the ground and running and operating and handing it off to my business partners and having them expand it and keeping it profitable and then moving on to the next project. So right now, yeah, I'm involved in food. So North Star Agriculture, Flat Creek Farms, and of course, most recently, Yukon Born and Raised.
That's an interesting framing, this idea of being somebody who's a builder versus somebody who's a manager. What have you learned about yourself? How did you kind of get to that space where you recognize yourself as a builder?
What a journey. It took me 8 years to figure out that I was a developer, like that I really didn't enjoy managing. I could do it, obviously, because you have to get it up and running. And that's fine. I don't mind doing that part because everybody's really passionate and excited about a new project. But it came, when it came to the point of the day-to-day, routine and rut, I really just didn't capture my imagination. I was really interested in, well, what's next? What can we do next? And where's the next opportunity? And, we've had rough times up and down financially and everything else. My wife and I have had discussions in the past, and I've always said, Jen, don't worry about it. We can always make more money. And she says, your confidence when it comes to that is so surprising. I said, it's not hard when you see the world in my lens. You can see opportunities and oh, well, we could always just do that, And so I'm lucky in that respect. I'm very much so, very lucky. I don't have a business background. I have a high school leaving. But I do see opportunities, and I do know how to bring people together to, maximize the potential of those opportunities. Food was just a natural transition for me because everybody has to eat, and there's so many different projects within food that we can do that will impact positively, how people eat and their health and access to nutrition here in the north. And really, it was time for me to give back. This place has given me so much. I've worked hard, don't get me wrong, but I could have worked hard back east in Quebec, and what would have the results have been there compared to here? The Yukon really is a place that's conducive, I think, for entrepreneurs to succeed and have successful lives. So
What makes the Yukon so conducive to entrepreneurship?
it is that final frontier. It really is. I came here. I was in the military briefly. I did my basic training and ran into a guy who was leaving the military. He'd screwed up his knee. I was honorably discharged for not having the same views as the military at the time. So we were sitting there for 2 weeks waiting to get the heck out of there, and he was telling me all about home. He was from Whitehorse. I went back to Quebec, and I was there for about 2 weeks before I caved in and called him and said, "Hey, man, if you've got room on your couch, I will come up there in a heartbeat." And I'm glad I did. I never looked back. I came out here, and it was wide open. There was so much opportunity because certain things just weren't in place. You know what I mean? We're if you go back to Quebec, where I'm from, man, my ancestry goes back to 1700s. Like that's hundreds of years of businesses being built and services being met, and the competition is very, very tight. You come here, I mean, the history is really, really just a short span of time. The First Nations, I've spoken to elders that remember the first time they saw a car or a white man. Like, it just wasn't something that's as old or as established as back east. So lots of opportunity for those of us that really wanted to work hard.
Yeah, in a really sort of Western paradigm, or so this sort of modern, economic environment that we've set up. But we were reflecting a little bit, or you're talking about sort of, connection with food, connection with, sort of, you've run all these sort of service level businesses, and you sort of had this moment where you realized that your passion is really in that connection to food, to land, to the environment, and sort of taking a deep breath in some of these sort of economic systems and food systems that we've established, and sort of rethinking some of those things. Can you reflect on sort of where you see the food movement going in the Yukon, and sort of where you'd like to see it go?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things happening that are really driving food and agriculture in this territory. One, obviously, we're in very interesting circumstances right now. So there's a highlight on food, and as well there should be. Most recently, I've been keeping track of the meat packing plants and the slaughterhouses, and I recognized a long time ago that those industries were very easily impacted because there was only a handful of companies that owned these massive plants. And so this is a really this is a wake up call, I think, for all of Canada, really. And it's important how we design our agriculture system here in the Yukon, because we are kind of our own little micro community here. We can do things differently than the rest of the country. And so I think maintaining that diversity is important. Making sure that we do have on-farm slaughterhouses, mobile slaughterhouse, fixed location slaughterhouse, keeping things diverse in that respect. Same with food production itself, making sure that we do have corporations that are large enough to be able to supply grocery stores, but also maintaining, farm gate sales for those individuals that want to be able to buy straight from the farmer and have that relationship with the farmer and see exactly where their food comes from. It's about balance, in my opinion. I think there's room at the table for all of us. Everybody needs to eat, and we all want to supply that food chain. Just let's make sure that we maintain that diversity. You know, and we're lucky. We have a government that's extremely supportive. They recognize, I think, this is prime time for us with this sort of thing going on, because mining's still continuing, but mining has peaks and troughs in general. Tourism has taken a massive hit, you know, and traditionally those are the two industries that this territory focuses on. Those are our primary industries. So now agriculture has a moment to shine, I feel, because everybody needs food, and now more so than ever, local food is taking the spotlight. And it took a pandemic really to to put the spotlight where it needs to be shined. But at the end of the day, if we're going to rebuild this economy, I know I personally have been telling the government to make sure that we invest back into the food sector and agriculture sector. Let's build this, because it's the sort of economic boost that we really need. I think it's the investment that just keeps on giving. We're going to dump money into it on the front end. There might be some construction projects, etc., which will fast stimulation, quick results. And then over time, we're just going to start to, replace importation. It's all about importation displacement. We're not hurting anybody here locally when we start to grow the sort of volume of food that we're talking about growing. That's what's really exciting. We're literally, impacting importation, or impacting our carbon footprint. It's all good stuff. It's all great stuff.
You just mentioned sort of our carbon footprint. What role does agriculture play and food security play in Yukon's adaptation and to climate change, or mitigation to climate change?
Well, when you start looking, we looked at it when we started looking at our at doing our facility for the leafy greens. Right? So we're looking at doing a hydroponic facility that recycles most of the water. And we started looking at that same produce and where it comes from typically in our Yukon market. And we're looking at a soil-based product being irrigated out of California, where they have problems with water, in general already. And then they're putting it on a truck and driving it all the way across the country. And by the time it hits us, it's on its last legs. It's the last stage of its life. And so, the nutrition value of that piece of, baby spinach, for example, might not be as high as it was if it had been picked and eaten within 24 to 48 hours. So ultimately, you look at that comparative to a system that we're designing, where you're going to pick it, you're going to put it on the shelf within 24 hours. People are going to be able to consume something that's probably the freshest that they've consumed, short of getting it out of their backyard or garden, right? And it'll be a year long. So that's an opportunity. That's like I said, that's a legacy. That's something that we can leave behind, that my five boys will have growing up here in the Yukon, access to leafy greens all year round. It's massive.
When I was, some of the first work that I had in the territory was working in the mining industry and exploration. And I was reading, I'm an avid reader, and I was reading East of Eden for whatever reason that summer. And I was working at a camp, 60 Mile, just outside of Dawson, I guess. And, East of Eden is talking about that sort of early agriculture in the Salinas Valley, and thinking about this like early freights, or, sort of what seemed like just in time then, of the trains, and they had the ability to store like the ice cars, and they would move this lettuce from the Salinas Valley across the country. And it was sort of this like early pioneering, amazing technology that allowed for this to happen. And I remember just being really dumbfounded sort of in this moment of looking at this like really long receipt that I had received from the groceries that I'd ordered for this camp. And there's a picture of me. I captured the moment in a picture, because I was holding the bin of leafy greens that said product of California. And I was at 60 Mile. Like, I couldn't be further away from this place. And I'm reading this book, and it's sort of chronicling this early agriculture and this innovation of moving lettuce across the country. And I couldn't help but think that there had to be a better way. And then going forward as a cook in camps, I always would write on my grocery order, local if possible, local if possible. And there's such incredible growers in the Dawson City area, and going forward, that's what we got. And so it was always local produce first. And it was better, and because it's grown with love, and it's grown with the sun that we're under, like the environment in which we're in, and that's so important. And it is kind of this craziness of this agricultural system that we've produced, that here I am on the top of the world pulling out leafy greens from California. So that's an interesting connection. You play a leadership role here in the territory, and just sort of wondering what's kind of keeping you grounded right now as leaders throughout the territory. This is a challenging time to be careful of how we make decisions. So what's keeping you grounded?
Yeah, I have two types of tired. I'm mental tired. We're doing stuff like this at the end of the day, being on Zoom or texting or emailing or working on proposals and stuff like that is very mentally exhausting. And then I have a physical tired, where if I'm at the farm and I'm working hard with my hands all day, whatever that might look like, that's a really good tired. And so when I'm emotionally tired, I will go back outside and work on the farm, and get my hands dirty. And that's really what actually, it grounds me physically. I'm able to get dirty. I was out there all weekend because the snow is melting and there's water everywhere. And so we're just, mitigating and getting ready. Fixing fence, fixing gates, moving pigs. We've got all kinds of pregnant sows right now. So it's that time of the year. We're going to have piglets everywhere in the next little while. So just prepping and getting everybody ready, fixing things that they broke, because pigs like to break things over the winter when they're bored. So it grounds me, it really reminds me of why I'm doing what I'm doing, because these animals, deserve the best possible life. They'll have one bad day, and they won't even remember it. That's the way I look at it.
Fair. When it comes to sort of people who are thinking about their businesses right now, you talked about being a builder, and I think builders are inherently fairly adaptable because you're looking for opportunity. And we're talking a lot about businesses needing to be adaptable in this time. Do you have any advice on sort of how you create a place of adaptability in your business? Oh, we're freezing. I'm not sure if you can still hear me. Hi, we're back. I was frozen on this side here. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I had the same problem. I got the gist of your question. Anyways, you were saying that things are different, things are changing, and for people starting new businesses, I guess, or adapting their current business models. Yeah. So if you're an entrepreneur, typically you're innovative. You're already in that headspace. You're already creative. You're already working outside the box because you saw an opportunity and you went for it. This, a pandemic is no different. It can be treated as, the worst possible situation that has ever occurred to us. Some people, it is. They lost their businesses. They lost everything that they'd worked for. But it is also an opportunity to switch gears and try something different, try a different approach. You're going to look around, you're going to see, like I said, these vacuums. They're all around us right now because people are in a certain headspace, because people are in certain circumstances. They don't have access to things that they typically did. A lot of opportunity in my mind. For us, obviously, in the food sector, we've seen massive spike. Everybody is buying local. Everybody is supporting local because they know now the importance of supporting that and helping it grow. And so I've been on Facebook and just watching like all these different people saying like, hey, anybody got any chickens for sale? We want to have chickens in the backyard this year. Anybody got any tomato plants? Anybody got any, and it's going to be huge this year. It's going to be massive. We're going to see a massive influx of people grabbing the bull by the horns and taking care of their own food security. And I don't think it'll be any different from a business perspective. I'm seeing people right now that are switching gears and doing things differently with their businesses because necessity breeds innovation.
I know whenever I go into my chicken coop these days to my layer hens, and I'm just like, thank you, ladies. Thank you for being here. I'm so grateful.
Absolutely.
Can
How
I
many
pluck
eggs
your?
did I get today? Oh, this is
That's right.
beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and you know, I mean, for even within my family, we decided at the beginning of this year, one of our resolutions was to only support buying local meats as much as possible, which we knew that that would mean going without some of the things that we love sometimes, but also it asked us to be creative in where we were finding our meats and how we're finding our meat and things like that. So and it means that we eat more beans and stuff like that too, to kind of supplement, because there can be an additional cost buying local, but the gift that buying local provides for us is far greater in creating that local system.
Well, and Yukon's in a position to supply you with pretty much every meat that you're going to need, I think.
I know. At first we were like, what are we going to do without bacon? Because we get we slaughter a pig every year and then butcher it up and get a bit of bacon, but that's not enough bacon to get through the whole year.
No. Yeah. Well, you can go. Yukon Born and Raised has bacon, and we have an online store now too. We that's something that you're gonna have to see change, right? Is online stores. All of a sudden, everybody's got to do an online store because we can't do that contact the way we did. So we did an online store, and what a difference, right? Now people are literally, if you're gonna do grocery shopping online with with Loblaws, the Superstore, this isn't a stretch to do the same. So I've seen a lot of uptake, which has been really interesting, and that's gonna be crazy. Like I knew that we weren't coming out of this the same, because, and I told my wife this, I said, look, at the end of the day, there was an entire cross section of the population that did not want to adopt certain aspects of technology. They didn't want to do stuff like this. They didn't want to use online banking. They didn't want to order the groceries off the internet and then have them, delivered or picked up. But this is forcing people to do these things, and it takes 30 days to build a habit. We're going to come out of this. People are going to just naturally continue to do what they do. What does that make us? Like, what are the benefits and what are the pros versus the cons? That's going to be something I think we're going to find out in the long term. And if it means that we've further distanced ourselves as a society from having contact, that's I think that's going to be the detriment, right? That'll be the aspect that causes some detriment. But the entrepreneur in me always is excited about advances, in technology and innovation. But I do find a lack of connection with people, and I have a hard time. I've always had a hard time with that. I'm surrounded here at McPherson by 3 neighbors, but I don't know them. That's foreign to me. I grew up, in Quebec, where I knew all my neighbors. I knew my neighbors for 20 kilometers, right? Because we just helped each other and we're always there for each other. And that's changed as I've gotten older. Things have changed. And a lot of it has to do with contact. And I don't know if we're going to come out of this the same. Oh, I know we're going to be different. I don't know if it's going to be for the best or what.
Yeah, I grew up in a neighborhood in, the west end of Toronto, but one of the things that we always did was have these sort of block parties where we'd shut down the street, and it was an opportunity to kind of get to know your neighbor. And that's certainly something that I value a lot and have brought into the community where I live, and sort of opportunities to sort of have, usually it's centered around meat. We get the big smoker out or whatever it is, and have an opportunity, to come together as neighbors. And I had to, I was kind of planning one for April and realized I had to take that out of my calendar, the other day. I'm getting a bunch of feedback here. And that was a really sad moment for me. Sorry, I'm getting a whole bunch of feedback. Are you getting any?
Oh, I'm good over here. Yeah.
I'm gonna try switching that. Can you hear me still? Ooh, technical issues. Oh no, I can't hear you at all anymore. You sound like you're underwater.
Started like, can you splice that together?
I can't hear you at all. I wonder, you can hear me still, hey?
Yeah. Nothing changed on my end.
Oh, interesting. Well, I don't know how that's going to affect our recording quality, so we probably better sign off here just in case it's terrible.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, but thanks so much for this. This was fantastic. But I guess, I don't know. Oh, actually, it's better now. So if there was a book or podcast or anything that you would recommend, what would you recommend?
Oh boy, let's see. I mean, I've been reading The Resilient Farm and Homestead. It's a permaculture book. A little heavy in terms of the amount of, the amount of expertise required, the expectation required, I guess. From an entrepreneurial standpoint, one of my favorite books has always been Tools of the Titans, Tim Ferris, only because it's not like a run-on book. It's literally like bits and pieces, and it speaks to entrepreneurs typically. So I mean, as the farmer in me is saying, the permaculture book that I'm currently reading, or the entrepreneur in me is saying, yeah, Tools of the Titans is a pretty good book. And then these days, other than reading, I'm listening to music, and music is kind of it's always happening in the background. I actually shut it off to do this because otherwise it's running in the background. I listen to everything, so these days it's been a mixture of Chris Stapleton and Metallica and Pink Floyd. Yeah, all over the place. But it plays in the background and it motivates me to keep at it. So when I'm emotionally exhausted, I'll switch gears. I'll go outside and it'll be listening to the water running and the pigs snoring. The other day I was over there; they were all sleeping in the sun, snoring. I
Oh,
was like,
that sounds divine.
I look at the life, eh?
I've got an old hound dog, and she is surefire to be like found just basking in the sun against the side of the house. And I just think,
I love
like,
it. I
what
love it.
glory, what
Yeah,
glory.
yeah. It's not just us that appreciate spring. The animals do too. They really do. They love it. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Sonny, for sharing your time with us today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate it.
Cool.
Take care.
You too.
Bye bye.